Well, it is now 1:05 p.m. We'd like to call to order this meeting of the WIFA Water Supply Development Committee. Start with the roll call vote. Ted Cook. Here. Patrice Horseman. Pete Kim. Here. Jonathan Lyons. Richard Lunt. Present. Sue Montgomery.
Here.
And Buchanan Davis, I'm here. Quorum is confirmed. Roll call is complete. For the record, please remember to identify yourself when you're making a motion or requesting to speak, and unmute yourself. We'll go to agenda item 2, disclosure of conflicts of interest. Have we received any disclosures?
Good afternoon, Joe Satelli, General Counsel. No disclosures have been submitted for today's meeting.
Sounds good. Then we'll move to agenda item 3, our director's report. Oh, we do have one.
Sue, do you want to go ahead and
yes,
disclose it?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I need to abstain from the Yavapai Apache vote.
Very good. We've noted that. Now we'll move to agenda item 3, director's report. Hand it over to Director McGuire.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things that I want to remind the committee already knows, but remind the public, make sure we're oriented. First is that we do have 2 members of this committee who this will be their last committee meeting because they will be resigning from the WIFA board effective later, either tomorrow or later this month. That will be Sue Montgomery and Richard Lunt. We gave a very good tribute to them at the board meeting that I will not be able to duplicate. So I won't try other than just to reiterate our thanks for their dedication, especially to rural Arizona and especially to the causes and the needs of small systems. So we'll note that and note that we hope to have new members of the committee to introduce the next time we're all together. A couple of other reminders for the committee to keep just in the periphery of what we're talking about today. The first is that the expiration of the resolution that essentially imposed the $60 million grant cap will expire in July. According to that resolution, staff is directed to bring you a full financial update and a potential new resolution at that time. So expect that for the July meeting and keep that in the back of your mind as we make our decisions today. And I'd also like to remind you that Resolution 2025-014, which established the introductory base rate for the Water Supply Development Revolving Fund, and that was, if you remember, a 25% discount on the market rate to be used in absence of that resolution. So basically saying, here's our market rate, or here's our good rate, our below market interest rate, and then we're going to take another 25% off of that. That will also expire relatively soon in August 2025. So that discount will expire or will continue to be applied to all applications presented to this board for approval until August of 2025. So just flagging those 2 things for your situational awareness. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Any questions for Director McGuire? Thanks for that report. We'll move into the regular agenda then. And those members of the public who wish to speak on any items of our regular agenda, you may request to speak. For instructions on how to submit a speaker's card, please refer to the notes on proceedings at the end of today's meeting's agenda. We'll move to agenda item 4, the Water Supply Development Project Priority List. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I will be brief, but I do want to just bring your attention to a few of the updates. So we have updated the project list to indicate the results of the previous board meeting, including 3 applications that were denied. Additionally, we had 1 new application submitted. We do, and if we can go to the next screen. So I included the total amount requested for the committee's consideration. And looking at this again this morning, I realized a probably even better number to make sure you are aware of is the amount in pending and or approved applications that could be considered for grant amounts. So I have 68 million there. That is including the ones that were denied. What we have right now in either pending or approved applications, we have approximately 62.2 million in grant and 34.4 million in loan, meaning if we're hitting that 60 million grant target, it will be about 2 million worth of proposals to not recommend grant for. We, at today's meeting, have a good agenda for you with a little over $10 million in requested funds. 6.3 million of that is grant and 4.5 million of that is loan. As we've been promising you here, as we work down this priority list, we are seeing more loan grant combo projects on your agenda, and we'll continue to do so. If we want to go to the next slide here, I thought it would be helpful for the committee to kind of have an idea of what is to come after this committee meeting. So once we get through the 7 projects on the agenda for today, these will be the remaining projects for your consideration. We do have that dark black line there to indicate the point at which the grant funds may no longer be available. So right after project 49 there. And in total, it's another 18 for review currently. As I stated, we had 1 more application submitted, certainly not seeing the flood of applications coming in that we saw previously. So it does seem to have slowed down a little bit on application requests. And we are thinking we could get through the rest of these projects within the next 2 or 3 meetings. But it would be for an additional $30 million in total that we still need to evaluate. So, and just to bring your attention to the fact that in future agendas, that the index score is kind of indicating how much grant to loan they may get. We will only have 2 additional projects that would be eligible for 100% grant consideration with that 70% or 75% index score. So we are definitely coming to a rapid end of the 100% grant proposals and to wrapping up this large list of projects that we had submitted. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Lindsay or staff? Appreciate that update. On agenda item 5, we have an abstention, so we're going to just move that to later in the agenda. So we'll move to agenda item 6. Recommend for approval financial assistance resolution 2025-115, City of Wilcox. Lindsay, would you lead us in this one?
Absolutely. So we had the City of Wilcox who requested just over $1.4 million in order to fund the design and engineering of a new 22-mile pipeline, which would extend potable water services to about 1,300 private well owners, as well as to complete a comprehensive water strategy looking at where they could place future well sites. Additionally, they plan to do various activities such as replacing valves and hydrants, installing a water fill station and wash station, and retrofitting water savings fixtures in public facilities in order to conserve water. Let's see, the city currently does not have any drinking water related debt. They did have historical performances that staff reviewed that indicated that their drinking water system does have the ability to take on debt. There were no significant managerial, technical, or legal findings noted by staff, and we did note that they had 1 previous water supply award for $2 million under the previous committee and board meeting. And then we have applicant representatives if you have any questions.
First, we'll see if the committee has any questions for WIFA staff. Does any have questions on this application? Do we have questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I do. I noticed,
Yes.
I noticed that they had manhole covers and manhole. Would you mind explaining?
And that is actually for the next agenda item.
Oh, is it?
They have 2 agenda items.
Okay.
This one is for their drinking water system.
I was looking for, no wonder I didn't find it.
But we'll have questions for you on the next one, I think.
Well, while you're here, so this is a 22-mile extension,
Right.
granting access to more people. Kind of expound on that, what the project is all about.
Yeah, so, before.
Could you introduce yourself for the record as well? Thanks.
Sorry, Caleb Bloschke, Wilcox City Manager. Thank you for having us here. I know sometimes, it seems like we've been
Good
here
job.
more often, but, one of the things that we've been. Sorry, just Caleb Bloschke, Wilcox City Manager. One of the things that the city has been working on is a comprehensive water strategy, especially recently being designated an AMA by the state. So outside of the city of Wilcox, we almost have as many residences in the city of Wilcox. And many of those homeowners' wells have been going dry. Many are low income. And so our idea is to expand our existing water system outside of city limits to encompass those individuals so that they have water supply to their homes.
Great. And how many more, hookups would this allow for?
I think there was about 1,300 that was listed there.
Wow.
And so it would allow for quite a few hookups in the future. Our idea is to design it and know the costs of construction and potentially go after, if they're still there, is congressionally direct spending requests from our representatives. And because there's a lot of federal and state and local involvement, so that's kind of our plan, is to work with some of those different entities to do
Some
that.
different, great. Any other questions for the applicant? Any discussion on the agenda item? Do we have any other requests from the public to speak on this item?
We do not, Mr. Chair.
All right. Well, if there's no other discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for the recommendation to approve resolution 2025-115's City of Wilcox in the amount of $1.485 million. Well, I guess it's $1,478,500.
Very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Sue Montgomery.
We've got 2 seconds, so we'll take them both. All those, if there's no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion may indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? All right, the motion passes unanimously. Moving on to agenda item 7, same applicant, different project. Lindsay, would you take us through?
Thank you, and I will actually turn my time over to Mr. Scott Conley, who has agreed to handle all of the ones with a loan component to it, so.
All right.
Alrighty, no worries. The city of Wilcox is requesting 2.5 million in financial assistance to make updates to their wastewater collection system, to scope and clean, conveyance lines, repair and replace aging infrastructure, and to line and replace manholes. Repairing leaks is expected to result in additional reclaimed water being produced from Wilcox's wastewater reclamation facility and could also reduce groundwater use. Based on the Water Supply Development Revolving Fund procedures, this project qualifies for 100% grant up to the statutory maximum of 2 million, and then the remaining 500,000 in a loan. So it's an 80-20 split. Financially, the city has 3 USDA loans outstanding, and they were able to meet the 1.2 times debt service coverage requirement for the last 2 years in 2023 and 2024. This debt service coverage improvement was in response to a rate increase that steadily improved revenue since implementation in 2020. In addition, the city is currently going through another rate case analysis for fiscal year 25-26. Based on the current rate structure, the city is projected to achieve a debt service coverage ratio of 1.25 times or better after incorporating the required payments of this proposed loan. The borrower is also considered a priority community. And we have the project managers, Michael Vidari, loan officers, Evan Marsh, and we already have the representative that we know is in the audience. So I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions for Scott or with the staff? How about follow-up questions?
Mr. Chair,
Let's go ahead, Sue.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman, didn't mean to step on you there. I would like to hear from either WIFA staff or the applicant a little more about how they intend to use the reclaimed water and how that will help on the water supply side. I know they referenced that.
Yeah, we can hear. I don't know if the applicant wants to come back up or.
I would recommend that we refer to the applicant.
So Caleb Loschke, Wilcox City Manager. There's a number of ways that we currently use our reclaimed water. Right now, we've been pushing it towards Cochise Lakes. We had almost 35,000 migratory cranes there, and it's a premier birding destination. That's one area where we use our water to go to. Our council actually, we pushed another 50% of it to our golf course, and our council is actively working on creating a more desert style golf course. So this year we had a couple council members request that we put that in our budget to design a drought hardscape golf course in our community. So that's where the water would go. And today it's going to fight a fire on the Chiricahua, so a helicopter is dipping and taking water from our reclaimed water and using it. And was there another question there? I apologize.
Mr. Chair. Follow-up
Yeah,
there?
well, I did have a follow-up if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So if you're using it on your golf course, I assume that's offsetting other groundwater pumping that you might use on that golf course if you weren't using reclaimed water.
Yes, that would be correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that, Sue. Mr. Lund?
Yes, and I guess you have 1.2 million for, manholes. Could you explain that, please? How?
Yes, so we installed a new wastewater treatment plant. It went live 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And that system is almost 80 years old, 80 to 100 years old. And the collection system that feeds, I almost want to talk with my hands. All the piping that goes to that wastewater treatment plant is very old and dilapidated. Most of it has a 50-year lifespan. And each of those pipes they have, there's about 480 manholes where staff can go in and clean out those pipes. And those pipes are made of brick. Lots of them are old brick. And so we would reline that so that water doesn't seep out of those areas. And so it would be relining those pipes with a resin base. And then the collection system, there's inside your documents, there should be a map. And we did this study, and almost 25% of the city is blocked, and then another 21% is in very poor condition. So we're assuming there's lots of holes in there where water is seeping out through those areas as well, and we would reline that as well.
And I remember reading that where a lot of your system's blocked and this, that, and so the manholes are for access then, or, I mean, just from the surface, you view a manhole just as a ability to get down to your system. And, like I say, but it actually allows you to get down and do, remove the blockages and stuff that you're needing, and be able to do that in a safe manner, correct? Okay, manholes just I didn't equate that with, water recovery. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Richard. Other questions for the applicant? Discussion? Thank you for that. If there's no more discussion, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to allow the public comment?
Sure, if there's more public comment, we recognize who is the,
Tricia, if you want to unmute.
Yes, thank you. This is Tricia Girodet. I live in Sierra Vista. I have one comment, concern, which is one of the microphones is not audible to the public. So for example, the explanations by either Mr. Blaschke or someone else on the project couldn't hear a thing. But also I wanted to ask, actually on the previous resolution, if the city would consider, if and when they hook up some people with failing wells on their new 22 miles of pipelines, if they will consider having a hookup fee that would help to recoup some of that money. It's pretty standard for there to be a hookup fee on new development, and it seems like that would not be unreasonable to have such a proposal on this new concept. Thank you.
Thanks for the comment and appreciate you calling our attention to the mic. We'll make sure that that's turned on and I'll pass on those comments you made. Thank you. Are there other comments from the public?
No,
Okay. With that being said, I'd entertain a motion. Of any kind.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the committee approve for financial assistance resolution 2025-116, City of Wilcox, in the amount of $2.5 million.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Pete Kim, second.
Motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll call for the question. All those in favor may say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
any opposed? Any abstained? Motion passes unanimously. Go to agenda item number 8. Recommend for approval of financial assistance resolution 2025-118, the Graham County Electric Co-op. Lindsay? Scott?
Yep, I'll get this one. Thank
You're
you.
good? You got it.
So yeah, the Graham County Electrical Co-op Incorporated is requesting slightly over $1.4 million to install a new gravity-fed water storage tank connected through a new pipeline to serve the community of Bryce. The tank will be designed to fill overnight to facilitate daytime distribution, which will enhance pressure and volume throughout the system. Based on the Water Supply Development Revolving Fund procedures, this project qualifies for 60% loan and 40% grant financial assistance funding. In financial capability, Graham County has pledged its water system revenue for repayment of its debt and currently has 7 loans outstanding. The co-op did not meet WIFA's desired debt service coverage for the 5 years reviewed, which is 2020 through 2023, but implementing an ACC approved rate increase of more than 60%, they achieved coverage of 1.9 times in 2024 and are projected to maintain a strong coverage ratio over the next 5 years forecasted. The borrower is also a priority community, and again, the project manager is Michael Vidari, the loan officer is Channing Lester, and we should have Representative Phil Cook, who's the CEO, or Josh Bryce, the water operations manager, available for comment.
So what percentage is loan and grant?
The 60% loan, 40% grant.
Gotcha. 6% loan, 4% grant. Questions for staff? We have the applicant here. You want to tell us a little bit more about the project?
Sure.
And you can state your name.
This is Josh Bryce I'm the Water Operations Manager for Graham County Electric. We have a remote part of our system on the north side of the Gila River. It's fed by a 4-inch line that goes across the bridge over the river. We've had significant development on that part of our system over the last 2 years, adding over 10% usage to that area. And with that 4-inch pipe, we don't have, we're limited in options on how to get more water into the area. So we did a study on what it would take to get a new pipeline. That was $15 million, or a new tank, which is 1.4. And we picked the 1.4. So, yeah. Any other questions?
That's helpful. Mr. Lunt?
Yeah, when was your last rate increase and when was your future rate increase? I understood that you went through the ACC and so
Correct.
they're giving you a step.
Correct. Our last rate increase happened in 2024. And our next rate increase, we are on the agenda for the next open meeting for the ACC, which would take effect in July.
And those rate increases are,
The first one that happened last year was 67%. This next rate increase will be 9.
Good.
thank you.
It's a good question. Thank you, Richard. Other questions for the applicant? Any requests from the public on this item?
Mr. Chairman, no request to speak virtually or in person.
If there's no other discussion, questions, then we can take a motion.
Chair, I would so move that we approve for financial assistance 2025, 118 Graham County Electric Co-op, and the loan and money amount is prescribed in the application.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
This is
Sure,
Pete Kim,
I'll
I'll second.
Pete beat you to it, Kim, or Ted, so we'll take Pete's second. All those in favor? Say
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Motion passes. Thank you. I was going to make the connection that my brother married a Bryce in the Gila Valley, but that wouldn't help because there's so many Bryces over there, so. Moving to agenda item 9, recommend for approval of financial assistance resolution 2025-119, Clay Springs Domestic Water Improvement District. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Clay Springs Domestic Water Improvement District is requesting just under $2 million in financial assistance funding with the intention to address reduced pump capacity and an existing well by drilling a new groundwater well. Additionally, the applicant proposes constructing a new 125,000 gallon water storage tank and installing approximately 3.5 thousand feet of water lines to create a loop water system in order to mitigate service disruptions, improve water quality, and reduce future leaks. Based on the water supply development procedures, this project qualifies for a 60% loan, 40% grant financial assistance funding. The DWID has 2 relatively new WIFA SRF loans from September 2023. One was 85%, one was 100%, so not included in the calculations here, totaling just under 625,000 with 587,500 or 94% in forgivable. They are secured by a pledge of water system revenue. Based on the required repayment, the district achieves the desired debt service coverage for 2024 through 2027. However, in 2028 and 2029, when the payments of this proposed water supply development fund loan are to begin, the revenue after debt service turns negative. The district is required to maintain a 1.2 times debt service coverage under the covenants of the existing SRF loan. And given the current projections indicate insufficient funding, the district will need to take additional actions such as 1, increasing gross revenue by an additional 70,000 or about 64%. 2, have the grant portion of the current request increased to about 94% of the total financial assistance amount. 3, reduce the project scope and financial assistance request to limit the borrowing to about 125,000, which is what the city could afford and still meet debt service requirements. Or 4, provide a different repayment pledge. And 5, some combination of the above. The borrower does qualify as a priority community, and the project manager was Lindsay Mills. The loan officer is Channing Lester, and the representative is Blake Anderson from Ogeon Water Management. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions from staff or for staff? I would ask, I think we received some additional information on this one, and, there was some engineering reports and whatnot. Can we talk through about what that is about?
Yep, and I'm happy to jump in there.
Thank
So,
you, Liz.
we did include some additional information in the due diligence for this one, including correspondence back and forth with the applicant, as well as their full engineering report for your review and consideration. So we did have a disagreement between the applicant and WIFA staff regarding the scoring of this application, resulting in the 80% index score and the grant and loan being recommended by staff. The applicant did feel their project should receive the maximum points for the water demands and project benefits of our project priority list application, which would then result in being eligible for being recommended for 100% grant. So like I said, we did include that correspondence to kind of explain where the disagreement lies. And it really is over two questions in our application, which ask about the documented deficiencies for existing near-term and long-term water demands compared to the volume and reliability of existing supplies, as well as what the project benefits were. And they were claiming 100 points for the water conservation project benefits, which staff did not, which staff reduced to be 50 points. So certainly a little disagreement on how it was scored. As we put in our letter, we are, confident in how staff scored it, but we're also open to the committee's feedback and guidance on how these types of applications should be handled.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I really appreciated looking at the back and forth and the professionalism there and trying to dive deeper in this. We do have the applicant here, Blake, if you want to come up. As he's coming up, any questions from the committee? Might have a few, so. I would also note that, I'm intimately, familiar with the system. It's, my hometown. And I just put that on the record. No need for recusal or anything like that. There's no conflicts there, but I am very familiar with this area and this, in fact, one of my good friends growing up, his dad ran the system for a bit for the DWID. And there were a few times before we could go out and hang out, we had to go fix a water leak, in town. So some of the system I've helped, I have some of my, blood, sweat and tears, if you will. in there. Yeah, O&M, that's right. Blake, can you talk to us about more of this engineering report and
Yeah.
some of that in?
Well, first of all, yeah, my name is Blake Anderson. I'm representing Clay Springs DeWitt. But there's one outcome I don't want to see out of this. It's any disparity towards staff. But I see their point, and I would hope that you guys see ours. I think that what I would appreciate is some more clarity as far as what the committee wants to see long term. The criteria that's been put out as written doesn't call for any consideration as to what the cause of the water supply and demand imbalance is, specifically to groundwater declines in aquifer. And so we applied under that, thought going forward. You'll see in our correspondence, we referenced three other projects, two for Heber DeWitt, one for Y, I want to say, that did receive the full point scoring previously, that did not have an imbalanced supply. The bulk of our correspondence was a response to a staff's initial email that stated that the issue wasn't due to groundwater decline, but rather due to construction issues with the original construction of the well. That gets laid out pretty in depth as far as why we disagree. Okay. Ultimately, Clay Springs DeWitt has 3 wells. Of those, if you look at the capacity memorandum, there's an 80% decline in one of them, 70% in the other, and 56% in the last. The most recent well that was constructed in 2007, I want to say 2008. Well 3 is the one that's at issue. Basically, when the well was constructed, they just drilled the hole, put the casing down the ground, and then they used an acetylene torch to cut out all the perforations, leaving these big gaps. So since the Coconino Aquifer, where we pull from, is a sandstone aquifer, there's erosion coming in, and the pump has gone out basically since its inception. There's kind of a holistic issue with small systems in general where you have such turnover. Like you said, just when you were in high school, you had somebody operating the system. Since that time, they've probably had 7 different operators there. It had a full turnover in the board. And so the historical knowledge of there's a problem with this well, nobody's connecting the dots all the way through. And so we went back, looked at all the meeting minutes, and just kind of documented, going back to when it was originally constructed, all of the issues that have transpired since it was built, which really the board wasn't aware of, that there were all these problems just because nobody was there when they had to deal with it 5 years ago. And so this last time that we pulled the well, there was sand all the way up to the pump intakes, which was what caused it to fail and went dry. We bailed everything out and we refilled 35 feet within 15 minutes. So I mean, it's just kind of pouring in. Our options right now for that well are to rehabilitate it, which would be putting a smaller casing on the inside of it. If we do that, we would lose probably 60 to 70% of our existing capacity and go down to 10 gallons per minute just because it's a smaller size pump that we'd have to fit inside of there. We also wouldn't be able to get any gravel pack around or much for gravel pack around the casing, so it may not resolve the issue ultimately, which is why we, lent towards drilling a new well altogether. So happy to answer any questions. Hopefully that gives you guys some background.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just, can you once more, give me the high level on what exactly is the disagreement here? I'm trying to but I just want to make sure I understand exactly what the disagreement is.
Absolutely, yeah. So in our project priority list application, we have various questions that we assign points for. If you say yes to one, you get a certain amount of points. If you have certain project benefits, you get certain points. There are certain questions for our water demand scoring, which you could get 150 points total. There's 2 different questions. We're in disagreement about the first question, which asks, is there a documented deficiency with existing near-term and long-term water demands compared to the volume and reliability of existing supplies of the proposed recipient of the water supply? So disagreement over that one, and then over the project benefits, which you could get 100 points for a water conservation project. We didn't feel that was appropriate for this one and gave them 50 points for the project benefits.
Got it.
And
So,
that slight difference in the points is what would make it the difference between recommending 100% grant versus a 60% loan and 40% grant.
20 points to be specific.
Blake, can you speak a little closer to
20
the mic?
points to be
Yeah,
specific.
folks online are having a hard time hearing you.
Do you have follow-up on that?
yeah, so, and there was there were no special circumstances. We didn't judge this any differently than we would have judged any others.
No, I don't believe so. We looked at what their existing supply and demand was, and according to what we're reading is they're able to meet existing demands, and then projected future demands aren't expected to increase. In fact, they may even be decreasing as population is trending downwards. So view this more as a problem with needing to maintain the.
So he obviously disagrees. Why do you
Yes.
disagree?
Yeah.
Thank you. 2 primary reasons. One, we have an engineering report that specifically lays out the supply and demand and says that we have lost all of this capacity on all of our existing wells up until this point. And if you take well 3 offline, which is going to happen and is documented throughout that engineering report, we won't be able to meet peak demand in the month of June. Say our other well were to go offline, well 2, because now we don't have any redundancy, we would have 6 months of the year where we wouldn't be able to meet our supply. So that's thing 1.
Sorry, say that again. So you're saying that if well 3 and well 2 go offline, then you won't be able to meet it, but right now they're working?
Well 1 is back online since we bailed it out, but it's the engineering report and the well driller contractor that came out and did the evaluation said it's going to fail. This is just going to happen, and so we're going to lose that supply. And also with our demand scoring, I think that that's taken from the population of Clay Springs overall has declined. They used to have a school, multiple Little League teams. Since the paper mill's closed, that's down. But since 2015, our demand has gone from 30 acre feet to 40 acre feet. So just a 25%, 33% increase. And we don't anticipate that stopping, especially as more people continue to not be able to live in Sholo just because of affordability issues.
What's current capacity now?
Our current capacity of all of our wells combined. So current capacity now, we can do 8,000 gallons per hour with well one and well two going. Our peak demand.
Just keep it in apples to apples so that like, you said 30 to 40 and then like, that way I don't have to do math.
Basically, with well three, we're okay. If well three was running and constructed the right way and we weren't gonna have issues with it, we'd be fine. With well three being, noted as basically failing or about to fail at this point, we would be running about a 20% shortfall. In the month of June specifically, May through October, it gets hairy if we have any other issues.
Yeah, I mean, kind of gets to a point where it's like, you have to believe whether or not well three is gonna fail or not, right?
Well, and that's what the engineering report is for, to go with it.
Yeah, but the engineers are like also gonna make money if they have to fix it.
Yeah, and then there is validity to that, but with that being said, we have 10 years of documentation of this well failing and continuing to have issues, and it's getting worse, it's not getting better.
Okay, thank you.
So, with the scoring, another disagreement is if they got a better scoring, then they could have more forgivable loan and less of a loan, then, right?
Yeah.
More of a grant.
Turn your mic on, Richard.
So they could have more grant money and less loan amount, correct?
Correct.
Goes
If
up to
one of those
100%.
points
Right.
were, yeah,
And right now it's 60-40.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
To that point, can the DWID afford the loan as is, like,
No, I mean, there's 38% unemployment in the community, median household income is $50,000, it would be like a 70% rate increase, and they're already having to raise the rates. Their breaks are off the charts compared to any other system that we have. They're averaging about 31 a year, which I did the math this morning. AWWA standard is 18 breaks per 100 miles of pipe. They're doing 235 at the same ratio. So I mean, 10x or more what the standards are.
and I believe even with the staff scoring, we agree with that. We didn't dock them on financial, it was more over the water demand.
And as the committee goes to look at, the July deadline for statutes changing, it's something to bear in mind with the MHI because for a community with 170 connections, the jump from being able to repay something, which I think that the district would be willing to do, and we'd be willing to scale back the project too if we needed to. But that jump is astronomical. And so those 20 points make this significant difference. I mean, we're talking right now, like 60% of their revenues would have to go to this.
In some of the back and forth too, there was discussion around, if it's a different type of project, if you were expanding access, then you would jump way high in some of the scoring criteria.
Well, and so that's kind of the clarification that I would say would be helpful with this is, are we looking at groundwater decline exclusively, as was said in the staff response initially for the scoring? If that's the case, Clay Springs probably wouldn't have applied in the same way. There's 25 households that want to get water added that are within the district boundaries, but they don't have the money to get the line ran to them. We don't have the money to run it to them. And so we would have probably applied for that and eliminated the tank, or include the tank and just had that smaller portion of the loan, and gotten more points awarded. But we wanted to focus on the priorities of let's take care of the existing system before we try to add anything to it. And it should be noted too, we'd still be willing to do that. We're into this competitive stage where timing gets a little tough, but it wouldn't be that difficult for us to revise the application in that way if that was the way it felt.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be brutally blunt. I don't want the committee you work with staff, and we've hired staff to do a job for us. And I want them to do the battering with the applicant. And I'm not in position as a board member to come and say, staff, all your badgering stuff, we're just gonna throw that out of the way. And so I always err on supporting staff, because I do not want to come here and every applicant come and argue that our staff isn't doing their job. And I'm just being blunt here, and that's the way I am. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Other comments, Mr. Cook?
Oh, sorry.
I'll recognize Mr. Cook and then I'll go to you, Sue.
I'll be brief
Thank
here.
you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm of similar mind to Mr. Lunt with respect to his comments about the staff and my reliance and on the staff who have ranked and scored dozens, if not hundreds of this type of project. That being said, so I would be inclined to vote no on this. That being said, I think there's maybe some merit in having another round of discussions with this applicant and making some of the changes about reducing scope and those type of things, rather than fiddle with the score to get the outcome that you want, is to basically reconfigure the project to get the outcome that you want with respect to the type of funding.
We'd be very appreciative of that.
Ms. Montgomery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Mr. Cook sort of said it. And also Mr. Lunt, they have scored so many applications in this bucket of money and in others. And I've looked at these, and I have a lot of confidence in this staff and how they scored this. And so with Richard, I'm not going to get in the middle of a back and forth on this. If the applicant wants to revisit how the applicant has put this project together, then that might be a way to approach this. But as it stands, I would stand on how it's been scored.
I appreciate those comments, and it does sound like applicant, you're willing to look at some of the ways to restructure it and make it, workable in that sense. And I do want to say again, and I mentioned at the beginning, I actually think this really makes our process a lot better, and the time that both staff and you took to respond very thoroughly and very cordially, but very emphatically on both sides, I thought was really good and helpful to the process. And I think that's a good thing. One of the prerogatives I have as the chair is I can just table this for now, and potentially you can reassess with staff and readjust the application or withdraw it or something like that. Is that something that's a viable option, Joe?
Joe Satelli, General Counsel, you do have prerogative to table an item. Typically, when you do table it, provide the instruction that you're looking for from staff or from the applicant before coming back. I think you provided a general statement already. If there's more specifics that you'd be looking for, I would recommend reading that into the record for staff.
Would the committee be all right with something like that?
Your call.
It's fine. I think it's being respectful to the applicant,
Sounds good.
and respectful to staff.
We'll table it for now. You can have continued conversation with staff and readjust and potentially see you back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff.
All right. Agenda item 10, recommend for approval of financial assistance resolution 2025-121, Payson Unified School District. Scott?
Payson Unified School District is requesting $2 million in financial assistance to install new turf for a community use football field, with the expectation to improve the reliability and redundancy for the water system. The applicant anticipates a savings of nearly 3.4 million gallons of water per year based on the planned reduction in the water currently used to maintain the grass sports field. In addition, the water district that supplies the school with reclaimed water, which is Green Valley Water Project, will be able to redistribute the saved water to benefit neighboring communities. The applicant also explains that the project will reduce the amount of water delivered from the C.C. Cragen Reservoir. Based on Water Supply Development Fund procedures, this project qualifies for 60% loan, 40% grant. The The district currently maintains a general fund bond rating of AA2 from Moody's. And over the 5-year projected period, factoring a 2% revenue increase and 6% expense increase annually, will achieve a debt service coverage between 1.41 and 14.56. The latter based on a portion of the current debt maturing in that year and being removed from the calculation. That's why it jumps so high. The district also maintains a debt service fund that is funded by property taxes and tuition in amounts necessary to provide the required payments as they come due. Based on coverage, the district does show the capacity to take on the additional debt payments required for this project. The borrower also qualifies as a priority community. The loan officer was Lindsay Mills, and the project manager was Lindsay Mills, and the loan officer was Anthony Aguirre. And the representatives we should have here, Ashley Brownlee, I was the grant management coordinator. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Or do we have the applicant available? No. We do.
Linda Gibson, Superintendent, Payson Unified School District. And I'm Ashley Brownlee, Grants Management Coordinator for Payson Unified School District.
Great, thank you for coming down. Anything more you would like to add to the project?
I think Mr. Conley summed it up quite beautifully. Thank you very much for that. I think the key word is a community project, and working with partnerships with the town of Payson and Green Valley Water is the highest significance, as well as on top of the water savings being a community project.
It's great. Do we have questions from the members of the committee for the applicant or staff?
I was just looking at the scoring.
Turn your mic on, Richard.
I was just looking at the scoring and I lost my, water demand points were 0 of 150. Where they got a bulk of their points was, project benefit points, feasibility was low, and also, financial need was also low. I just look at that score, and we set up a matrix for a reason. Just comments for the committee to
Great.
think.
And because of that scoring though, so what percentage again is grant and what percentage is loans?
40-60.
40-60. So that directly led into that.
60 loan, 40 grant. And Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Cook.
So, and this project, just to remind the committee once again, ranks number 45 on the list, and it would be helpful if we could easily put that chart from the agenda item number 4 back up there to show us where we are with respect to the black line. So this is, I think this page is after today, the consideration of today's, so can we go up to that one?
Or to which one, Ted?
To the one that included the colors.
Yes. Do we have that in the
We
presentation?
don't have it in the presentation.
In this,
It's
in
in
this,
your.
it's in the
It is in
packet.
board
Okay, I
materials,
guess the point that I was trying to make, so imagine for a minute that, number 45,
And-
45 is, no.
And I'm sorry, Payson Unified is 46.
Okay, so 46 and then 47 is the one that's after this.
Yes.
So imagine for a minute that they're right above that line there. So I'm one of the committee members and a board member that's been pretty vocal about being careful, not running out of loan money and so on and so forth. And I too have been pretty vocal in the past about low scoring projects, particularly when we were at the point when we were approving something that's 20 or 30, and we still have 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 for consideration, that based on our scoring, which we just highly praised a moment ago, were superior projects. we now, at least from my perspective, have kind of moved beyond that urgency that was only maybe a couple of months ago as far as running out of money. And I'll just come out and say it. As low as this score is, it didn't come up, but I'm sure some people are thinking it. As much as our aversion has been in, not this fund, but in other funds about doing turf replacement projects and things like that for water conservation grant and so on and so forth. We don't have a whole lot of choice as far as other projects that are going to take a significant amount of loan money and a smaller proportion of grant money. So I don't know what we replace this with at this point. We can wait to the end. We can wait until everything above number 47 has come to us and then decide on this one. But I do not feel as strongly after the last couple of committee and meetings and the recommendations to the board about we're in danger of running out of money. And scores are relative. And when you don't have a lot of things to compare to that are superior to a poor score, you kind of go with the best thing that you have. And that's kind of the way that I'm looking at this project. So no offense intended, but it is what it is. Okay.
Thank you for the comments. Other comments?
Maybe just kick the can on this one, see what else comes down, right? Look, no offense, I'd want a 40% off my football field too, right? Along with the 60% not so high interest loan. So that'd be cool. But our job is to make sure that we spend the money the right way. So on this particular one, my gut is to hang out a bit and see what else comes down the pipe. I agree with Ted.
Is that a
Other
form of a
comment?
motion?
Little guidance, what's the formal motion if we want to table this and then come back to it?
You can certainly make a motion to table it. The chair, again, has the prerogative to table any item that the chair desires, but that doesn't stop any board or committee member from making that motion either.
Are there any other desires for any sort of other motion?
That's a no.
Then I will use the prerogative to table this as well, and we'll continue that conversation with the applicant.
Your direction, sorry,
Your
Chair,
direction
direction
is,
for when to bring it back or anything you'd like from us on that end?
any thoughts on that from the committee?
Nope.
No earlier than the next meeting of this committee. So if Mr. Kim's idea here is let's wait until we see what else comes in, the next opportunity to do that one next time. So to me, it's kind of it's a moving target.
Yep.
We may feel the same way at the next meeting, or may take the meeting after that, or the meeting after that.
At the end of the day, like, it's always going to be a moving target on these things, right? And so there's just, like, we can just have a list of things that we just keep on going and like kind of continue to kick on down. And then effectively, the hard part about this is that we're being asked to make decisions without perfect information. And all we're doing is we're creating a list of things that must wait until perfect information, i.e. all the projects are in sight before we make it because they're on the bubble from a judgment perspective.
And that will never happen. We'll never have all of the applications. We'll never have all of the information. And I know that we've talked through this, but one of the things I'd say is, and you all know where I naturally bend is, let's put this money to work. Let's not wait too long. Let's put it to work to good projects so in my mind, the direction is next meeting, we'll readdress it and see where we're at. I don't want to wait any longer than that, but not before that either. Mr. Cook.
And Mr. Satelli, please let me know if this is out of order. If that's the direction that we're going to take, either with a vote or just on I think you're prepared to exercise your authority here. Probably ought to include number 11, which is 47. So if we're doing it to 46, then to be fair, we really ought to do it to 47.
Well, let me table, which one are we on? Agenda item
10.
10? Yeah, let's, 10, and then, let's have that same conversation on 11. Okay, agenda item 10's tabled with that instruction. Moving to agenda item 11. Scott, on to that.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 11 is Havasu Heights Domestic Water Improvement District. They are seeking nearly 1.4 million in financial assistance to add a new 150,000 gallon bolted tank directly behind their current 250,000 gallon tank. In addition, new distribution lines from all three of their wells to the tanks will help with the distribution of the chlorine and will be installed directly adjacent to the current lines. Based on the Water Supply Development Revolving Fund, this project qualifies as a 60% loan, 40% grant and financial assistance funding. The DeWitt currently has one loan with WIFA that provides financial assistance to fund the refurbishment of its 250,000 gallon water tank. And that loan is set to mature in 2041. To date, no disbursements have been requested from this loan as the refurbishment of the original tank required a second tank, and the DeWitt desires to make that second tank, which is the 150,000 gallon tank, be a permanent addition to the system to help bolster overall system capability. Historical financial performance showed that the DeWitt met the required 1.2 times debt service coverage in 2 of the last 4 years, but failed to meet it in the other years, primarily due to increases in professional fees and engineering work on the projects. For the 5-year forecast, WIFA projects in all years that the income available for debt service will be negative. Therefore, prior to closing this requested loan, the DeWitt will need to demonstrate that it can meet the required debt service coverage for the state revolving fund loan, including the required payments for this loan in that calculation. WIFA staff will work with the DeWitt to move forward to achieve the desired result, and they have already been in contact with WIFA staff. Currently, to meet the required debt service coverage requirement, the DeWitt will need to increase their revenue by around $120,000 by fiscal year 2029, or take other actions to help meet coverage requirements such as increasing water rates, increasing tax assessments, or providing an additional secondary revenue pledge, which will allow them to meet the debt service coverage of the SRF loan as well as this loan. If the borrower qualifies as a priority community, the loan officer is Morgan Burgess, the project manager is Morgan Burgess, and the loan officer is Channing Lester. And we do have representatives, and that would be on Jacqueline Moore, who is the manager, and Bill Fisher and Usatia Richard, who are board members. So thank you.
Great quote. Thank you. Any questions from members of the committee or staff?
I'm gonna do my, this is Pete Kim, I'll do my Richard London impersonation. Water demand points is 0. Financial need points 30. It just, I don't know. To me, it seems like we're gonna have to relook at how the scoring is kind of going. Cause I'm just thinking about it out loud. And for those out there, like, this is a work in progress. We're always trying to figure out how to do this better. But today's cases and applicants just really have kind of sent it home for me. Theoretically, we could approve projects based upon the scoring system that we have created for a project that has lots of benefits and is entirely feasible for a place that doesn't need water and can afford their own anyway. Seems weird. Just a comment.
Thank you. Other comments?
Sure.
Yes.
So yes, so based on the foregoing discussion on the previous project, I think it would be consistent for this committee to also table this this item as well for the same reasons.
Are there discussion around that?
Agree. We gotta be fair.
We'll table I'll table that as well with the same, direction, Slash.
So we're
We
gonna move
will
back to, yeah, the
We'll
pipe
go
patch.
back
Yep.
to agenda item 5. We do have, a abstention on this one from, Ms. Montgomery, but, agenda item 5 is a recommendation of financial assistance resolution 2025-114, Yavapai Apache Nation. Lindsay.
You got it. Yes, this one is being recommended for 100% grant, so I'll be presenting. So we have Yavapai Apache Nation. They've requested just over 140,000 to install a network of remotely monitored water meters at each of their individual residences and facilities within the nation's Camp Verde district and their Clarkdale district. This would help to provide the nation with the ability to monitor their water usage and track water usage data over time. They do have one existing SRF loan and would have a pledge that would be sufficient revenue to meet that service coverage if this were a loan instead of a grant. However, as noted with a 75% index rate, it does qualify based on WIFA procedures for 100% grant consideration. And they have not received previous water supply funds for this project, and we should have the applicant's representative for any questions the committee may have.
Great, thank you. Do we have questions for Lindsay? We have the applicant available. Anything you want to add? Who's the applicant we have?
Attorney General Scott Canty for the nation is online.
Attorney General, if you're there, you can add anything you want on the application.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, this is Scott Canty. I'm the Attorney General for the nation, and I'm happy to provide a brief overview of the project as well as answer any questions that you might have. This project is part of a larger project. We have a project that the Indian Health Service is financing for a potable water infrastructure improvement project in both of these communities, the Camp Verde Reservation and the Clarkdale Reservation. Most of the houses there were built in the 60s and the 70s. A lot of the infrastructure is even older than that. The water infrastructure is even older than that. And so we're going to replace all the water mains and all the distribution lines. And IHS, or the Indian Health Service, is financing the largest part of that. But the budget doesn't include money for water meters. And we really need to get those water meters in there so that we can monitor uses. Both the town of Camp Verde, who supplies our potable water, and the town of Clarkdale, who supplies our potable water there in that community, they have their own, their wells are stressed as it is. And so we do get calls from them from time to time saying, what about your water use? You need to monitor it a little bit closer. And we're trying to do that. We've recently adopted a water use code that requires conservation measures. And so these meters will help us to get a handle on where we're getting either leaks or people who are using more water than they should be using. And we need to bring them into compliance with our water conservation measures. And if necessary, impose some escalating cost on individuals who don't. But we can't do that until we get meters installed that will tell us in these older communities how much water is being used, who's using it, and if there are some potential leaks, how it's being, where it's coming from. So we've asked them for the money. They basically said, this is all we've got. We can only do the major infrastructure improvement. We can't provide the meters. They've designed the project at 100% design for Camp Verde, and they've got boxes for the meters, but no meters. And so that's why we're asking for these additional dollars to help us fill out this project and to implement these water conservation measures that we just can't do right now. So this project actually benefits not only the nation itself, but also the towns of Camp Verde and Clarkdale, because we are tied into their potable water systems. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them for you. Thank you.
Thank you for that explanation, Scott. That's very helpful. Any other follow-up from members of the committee?
Yeah, sure. This is Pete Kim. These numbers look a lot better. 150 out of 150 on the water demand points, financial needs 60 out of 100. Sounds good.
There's no other questions or discussion. I'd entertain a motion.
This is Pete Kim. I move to approve financial assistance resolution 2025-114, Yavapai Apache Nation WSD 0592025 in the amount of $144,771.
Got a motion. Do we have a second?
Richard Lunn, I'll second that.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we've noted your abstention, Ms. Montgomery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Well, those are the items on the application. So moving to agenda item 12, do we have any call to the public? Any comments from the public?
Mr. Chairman, we have Bruce Salmon representing Shaw Sports Turf who would like to address the body.
Yes, Mr. Salmon. State your name again for the record, and we've limited comments to 3 minutes. But go ahead, Mr. Salmon.
My name is Bruce Salmon. I actually work for Shaw Sports Turf. Before that, I was an educator, athletic director for 30 years in Texas. Moved out here recently. Once I retired, I tried to pick a job where I could be in a position to assist schools. And some of the questions and listen to the comments, I've had to sit in your situation. You got a very tough job because you're having to weed through things and figure out and prioritize, and that's very challenging. I initially came here today to give you a little perspective and a little feedback. Number one, to thank you. I had the pleasure to work on the Williams job as well as the Queen Creek, and those are two that you guys had improved early on. You don't always get to see the end results of it, and it's always tough when you talk about an ongoing evaluation progress of your progress and of your process. You don't get good feedback. Huge deal to it. One thing that I kind of learned having to pass these things and then figuring out a way to do it, it wasn't necessarily the icing on top of the cake. It was more the stuff that goes underneath. On the board in the back, you talk about wanting to conserve what 5.5 million square acres of water. And the thing that goes to transition for it, it's like my cable bill. Every time it comes, I hate paying it because I'll never own it. And I think that's some of the sentiment that you kind of feel towards a lot of the stuff. The thing with fields in general is that about 33% of the cost is what you see in the actual turf, and it's an expendable item. Lasts about 10 to 12 years if you take care of it. What you and a lot of times what you're funding and a lot of times the school district needs is necessarily that bridge to get there. It's the infrastructure underneath where you actually see the water conservation, and that's where it's not in the turf. Anytime you go, whether it's a fully funded deal and you're requiring that they put 25% down, that's pretty much paying for the actual turf portion of it. It's the infrastructure underneath that a lot of times goes into. Having been familiar with the Payson project specifically, and then having friends who are in the outlying areas, being able to eliminate it just on 1 to 2 fields allows them to push water into a couple of different areas. I'm a little biased. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's part of my job, but that isn't why I came here. I came here to thank you for your service on this deal. You're winding down on this. Well, one thing I do know is that there's going to be another round, because ultimately, when I read that article, it says for every 5 people that leave or move one state to the next and 2 of them move into the Phoenix area, the demand's getting a lot higher. And people are putting money into that infrastructure. I'm going to give you a couple numbers in my 3 minutes and be done. It takes about 60,000 gallons of water to water a field once, is what they're recommending in order to keep it growing. In a growing season of about 40 weeks out of 52 a year, you're looking at about 2.4 million gallons of water. That equates to about 7.8 acre feet that are saved per field per year. That infrastructure investment that you guys make into a deal, and sometimes it's difficult for me as an athletic director when I was in education because I never saw the construction side, is that's an ongoing deal. That's not like your cable bill. It's not like your phone bill. You will own that. The school district owns that. And then the byproduct of it, this kind of a hidden benefit, is that it saves about $55,000 to $60,000 per year per field in maintenance cost, and that money actually goes back to the education system because it's already in their budget. Now they're pushing it towards books, curriculum, and things like that. So one of the reasons I got into this, I'm not a field builder. I'm a problem solver. I enjoyed that in my career as an educator. I take that enthusiasm and stuff into my job now, in building fields and working with schools and finding solutions. Guys, I appreciate your time today. And again, thank you for your service. I guarantee this, the people at Williams, the people at Queen Creek, and everyone else, Round Valley and all the other places that you did, they appreciate it too. You don't always get that back. You got a tough job. Thank you for your service.
We really appreciate those comments. We really appreciate it when people come down to thank us, so.
Doesn't happen often, does it?
Thank you. Do we have other comments from the public? Thank you. Agenda item 13, this is our agenda development. Do we have any topics that we would like placed on a future agenda?
Yeah.
Mr. Kim?
I want to revisit the scoring on how we do this stuff and figure out like how we can get it to a place where it's a little bit less confusing and we're not like making judgment calls on the fly. That's my request.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think we've received feedback from the committee consistent with what you just said, Mr. Kim, as well as bringing back tabled applications from this meeting. And again, using the July deadline for the financial resolution to kind of talk about this in a more holistic sense and figure out what levers we would like to direct or request that the board pull ultimately. So we'll have some work to do.
Very good. Other comments on that? Items from the board? I do think along the lines, I think we're at or nearing a point where we get a better sense of the demand. There's always demand for grants, always. But, you know, as hard as this is, I think we're moving in a time where we'll get a sense of how these communities, remember this fund is focused on rural communities. If those systems are able to take on debt, even if it's cheap money, I think we're at a point to continue to nail that down and figure out where we're at. So that can be part of that conversation as we look towards our scoring and figure that out. Agenda item 14, our next meeting will be in July sometime potentially.
That is correct. July sometime potentially. We will pull the committee as usual to determine the best time for that. Historically, we have done it directly following a board meeting. We're kind of looking at our board meeting schedule for July, trying to figure out what that's going to be. So just stay tuned, but keep your calendars relatively clear.
Sounds good. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll adjourn this meeting. It's 2:22.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.